Coming up on episode 56 of Fresh Freedom, the Schumer shutdown hits a milestone while Democrats dance in the streets for Mom Donnie. Welcome to the Fresh Freedom Podcast, featuring freedom-focused representatives who are fighting for conservative values and defending your constitutional rights. I'm Nate Lucas, joined alongside Representative Eric Burleson from Missouri's 7th District, and our special guest is Congressman Mark Harris from North Carolina's 8th Congressional District. Mr. Harris serves on the House Agriculture Committee as well as the Judiciary and Education and Workforce Committees. And both of you are proud House Freedom Caucus members. Great to be with you both.
Absolutely.
You know, whenever you ran, I was worried because Dan Bishop, who you replaced, was he's an amazing guy, and it's like, how do you fill the shoes of that guy? He was a rock rib conservative, but I got to tell you, you were stepping every bit into his shoes, and you're doing. I'm very impressed with your voting record and like your boldness. You know, like your attitude is really refreshing up here.
Well, thank you, Eric. Listen, it is such an honor to be a part of the Freedom Caucus and all the folks that are a part of it, really just standing strong together, united, because they love this country and they want to preserve this country for the future. And of course, Dan Bishop I've been a big Dan Bishop fan for a long time, and he really has paved the way so much in the district of holding those solid conservative views. And it's been a joy to be a part of it.
And now we get the best of both worlds because both of you are now involved, because you're the congressman and he's working for Russ Vought at OMB. And I mean, he's still doing great things.
What a match. I mean, when you think about Russ Vought and Dan Bishop working together in that office, that's huge. That is huge.
So this week, milestone for the shutdown, day 36, officially longest shutdown in the history of government. But there are some rumors circling out there that perhaps we're coming to the end. Maybe Senate Democrats are going to get on page here. I mean, do you think we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak?
Well, from all I hear, there's movement over there. I think it's going to be important that we understand what the plan's going to be. I think we've been really clear, and really throughout this shutdown, I think the most encouraging thing to me as a freshman congressman is seeing the unity that the Republican Party and our Republican conference has held throughout this. I think Speaker Johnson has done a phenomenal job. I know Chairman Andy Harris and many of us, Eric, have been on press calls and other calls. It's just been consistent messaging and just holding the line, because it was so clear this was the side of right. I mean, the clean CR with a date of November 21st put out there to allow us to continue to move appropriation bills. And so, I hope we remain united, but I also hope that the Senate understands that we are united and doesn't send us something that is just crazy.
Yeah, their notion of sending us like a CR that ends before Christmas is just more swamp, like more of the same swamp kind of activity that we have seen, which is why I think it was refreshing to hear from the speaker that generally that's probably not going to pass the this conference. So that's good.
That is good.
And which has them now saying, okay, how far in, January? But to me, as long as you get past Christmas, that's the important factor, because that having that like sort of Damocles over your head where you can't go see your family for Christmas and all that stuff. It's what they use to motivate people to kind of vote for some really swampy monster bill. And I'm glad that already that's not on the table.
And I'm hearing, I think the president's a big part of that too. And I think that from what I'm hearing, and I think Speaker Johnson shared that at some point, that from the White House, that seems to be a non-starter, trying to just go till before Christmas.
And I think it's important to kind of give the broader picture, because typically a CR is not a good idea. It's not exactly, it's us, and it is us declaring failure. However, if you keep a CR without any kind of plus ups, and you do that year after year after year, basically it's static spending. That's not a bad thing. That's actually pretty conservative, as long as you're not doing what they call the anomalies, where you plus up the CRs. And that's what we did last year. It had a direct impact on our trajectory for debt in the United States. Not enough, but if we could continue to do that for a few more years, I mean, we would eventually get to a balanced budget. So when people ask me, why would you support, Joe Biden's budget to continue that? It's not ideal, but I'm always looking for whatever path will spend the least amount of money. And right now, a CR spends the least amount of money.
And that's why Democrats have to realize that is the compromise. You're already agreeing to the Biden era level spendings, which ideally wouldn't do, but that's just the position that Congress is in right now. The appetite to truly cut spending is just not there. I don't know if it'll ever return, but if you can at least get to a position where over the next decade, maybe spending stays flat.
Well, and when you take into consideration, that was the reason for all of the work that went into the reconciliation package. That was our opportunity. And again, was the first time in the history of Congress that we were able to cut $1.6 trillion in mandatory spending. And then with the rescission packages that came from the White House that we were able to get through, and then with the pocket rescission that they moved in August, I mean, we've been able to make some strides that I think are important. So when you couple those with the CR when we have to, then I think that we find ourselves longer term better off than any of the short term stuff that puts us in a corner, and then we feel the pressure and this omnibus, arises.
Well, when we talk to conservative groups who have been here a long time and have been watching this process, they will tell you they never thought we would be able to make the amount of cuts that we were able to get in the one big beautiful bill. Like, to basically put in the reforms for the Medicaid, to the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid, which had tremendous savings, to be able to cut the Green New Deal, all of that. Like, this place, Republican or Democrat, what is it? Reagan said once a government program, once it stood up, is the closest thing to eternal life that we'll ever know, right? And so here we are actually cutting Green New Deal completely, program. That it's unprecedented.
It is.
So the president has sort of sharpened his sword a little bit with talk of the filibuster in removing the 60-vote, 2/3 threshold that the Senate requires currently. I see where he's coming from, because he just wants to see the government shutdown end and move along and keep the ball moving forward. The problem is that life after Donald Trump, at some point, Democrats will likely assume power. And when you set this precedent of breaking the filibuster, it just seems like, boy, you're really planting the seeds for something that could be turned against you real soon.
Well, you are definitely setting up in this political environment we're living in for just whiplash back and forth, it seems. I mean, when you think about what the Democrats have said that they would want to do, whether it's packing the court, whether it is making D.C. and then Puerto Rico the 51st and 52nd state, which would give each of those 2 United States senators, when you stop and think about all of the things, passing the Equality Act and all of the things that they would want to do with that, making gender identity a protected class, all of the things, Equal Rights Amendment, the Radical Climate Agenda, all the things that they could do. Now, to the president's point, there were only 2 people that stood between that becoming a reality previously, and that was Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. They're now gone. And to the president's point, that this crowd that's over there now, they're going to jump at the opportunity.
Because they're nuts.
They are nuts. I mean, listen, John Fetterman is going to be your only one that is going to stand at this point.
How wild is it that the guy that is still recovering from a stroke is the most sane person in the Democrat Senate?
That's exactly right.
No, I can't remember. I know you are a pastor.
Yes.
And then did you also serve in the legislature in the state?
No, I did not serve in the state legislature.
So I did, and I served in the House and then the state Senate. But in Missouri, we have the ability to do a filibuster, and I thank God that we still have that ability. I think the filibuster is designed, Thomas Jefferson specifically designed this so that you have one body that is the popular vote and then one body that is basically the brakes, that says, hold on now. the rights of the minority have to be defended, and that's why. But the difference in the state legislature, when you filibuster, you actually have to stand and talk. And I think if you're going to do one change, they ought to change that rule, and they ought to make these people stand and talk. And I mean, they could take turns, right? There's enough of them, they could take turns. But the pain of having to actually stand on the floor and talk for hours at a time, eventually, the truth is it'll solve two problems. It'll solve this kind of garbage that we're seeing with the shutdown, right? Or other bills. But two, it will probably retire a lot of these older members that should have retired a long time ago.
They couldn't do it
because
they couldn't pull their
could
time.
not physically do it.
They need their naps. I mean,
no question.
Get to their age. Okay, let's switch topics a little bit. Election results from this week. It was pretty much a clean sweep for Democrats. They won the mayoral race in New York City with Mamdani. Jay Jones, who had just the absolute grotesque text leak about violence, political violence. He wins the Attorney General in Virginia. Spanberger in Virginia, and then also Sherrill in New Jersey. So I don't know. Is this like a blue wave? Is it a blue yawn? What do you characterize?
Well, when I look at what just transpired, I think there was a lot of build up to it, that these races were going to be much closer and that we were going to be able to pull out, whether it was the governorship in New Jersey or whatever. In reality, if you just step back, I mean, these are blue states. And in this election, we typically see these metropolitan or municipal elections, I should say, going this way. So it really shouldn't be a shock or a surprise that this occurred. And I think we have to recognize that. And then when you see the areas such as New York City, and you see the number of illegal immigrants that have flooded into that city over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, to see that they would elect who they elected, again, I think we might say we're shocked but not surprised, if you really can put that in context.
There are some numbers regarding the Mamdani election in particular, but the New York City Board of Elections announced that there were 2 million ballots cast for this guy. That is the most that they have ever had since 1969. And if you look at the last mayoral election, there was 1.15 million voters. So that's up a pretty significant amount for an admitted socialist, communist socialist in Mamdani. I don't know what to make of this guy. So What do you guys think?
I think sadly, and George Will, I think, is the one that was quoted as saying this, that sadly every generation has to see for themselves why it doesn't work. And I just hope that it doesn't spread very far, very fast, because I think that we will see. I mean, this is basically FAFO, the fool around and find out. I mean, people in New York are going to find out real quick the impact of socialism and the. I mean, it's crazy that you've got someone who is, and I'll just say like a Muslim socialist elected to lead the economic center of the free world. That's crazy.
Who's never run anything.
Right.
He's never run anything. I mean, that's the other part. He's 34 years old. He does not have a record or he just has no experience leading and working with anything, and yet he now is in that position. It really is astounding. Mm-hmm. If you think about it. And he did not pull back. I had the opportunity. I watched his speech last night. It was late, but I watched it. And wow, I mean, he is an incredible communicator. He read it right off that teleprompter quite well, and he did it with passion, and he believed in what he was saying. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you that when you think about what he is setting out to do, and he emphasized it again last night, free child care, free buses, state-run, government-run grocery stores, and all the things that he's out there, somebody's going to pay for this. And that's the hard, cold reality.
Yeah, and I think what the Democrats did by having him now, he's now the face of the party. right? So he is, I mean, whether they like it or not, they are basically, he is now the face of the party, and which is, at the end of the day, that should be a wake-up call to people across the country. And I think that it's not going to be good for the Democratic Party by and large, because I just do not see, I think that his contingent is a fringe, fraction of where the American people are. And I think that while he got record-breaking numbers from that kind of turnout, that is in isolation. I don't see that spreading. And once people start seeing him actually conduct some of the things that he's wanting to do, they'll see why it fails.
One person in the media, Tony Kinnett, he put on X, for the 367th time, voters need more than you pointing on a stage yelling, quote, "My opponent is evil." Many Republicans refuse to learn this. Therefore, if the socialists or the National Socialists are willing to say, quote, "I will fix these problems, here's how," then they'll continue to win. It doesn't matter that the Socialist and National Socialist plan is terrible. It doesn't matter that their argument is evil and stupid. If they're the ones acknowledging problems and outlining a solution, then that's the solution which will be chosen, period.
Well, the problem is, where is the solution that they claim they're outlining? It's easy to say, here's the answers to how you're going to pay for your child care. You're not going to have to. But where's that money going to come from? And President Trump made it clear after last night that, we're certainly not going to use federal taxpayers' money and put into that mess. And I think that that's going to be important for people to have to figure out. It's easy to say what you're going to do, but somebody's got to have a plan to do it. And that's the part I don't think Mamdani ever really gave a specific plan for how he was going to do it.
I think that that's a valid criticism that he, I guess, truthed or tweeted. I think it's a valid criticism, and it's a criticism I've had of the Republican Party long before I decided to run for Congress. I was always disappointed. I was always disappointed. We would get control and then do milquetoast things and call it good. Now I think the one big beautiful bill, the what is it called? The Working Family Tax Cut, was historic, and it's awesome. But it's not enough. We can't just rest on that. There's so much that needs to be fixed in this country, including the healthcare system. And when we don't have a plan for how to reduce the costs of healthcare or how to reduce the costs of the groceries that are on the shelves, if we don't have a plan, then I think that he's right. Like, we have to now I've got some things that we're going to be rolling out on healthcare reform. And I'm excited. I'm actually, the fact that we potentially can have this conversation. If the Democrats, after we bring the government back open, they want to have a debate about how bad Obamacare is, I welcome that debate.
We're all in.
But we need to bring to that debate real solutions. And I think that his criticism is valid.
Is some of it a little overblown in media hysteria? I know, Fox News is headquartered in New York City. So a lot of Republicans, when they turn on cable news, they watch Fox News and they're like, why is the mayoral race in New York City this important? I mean, as someone from St. Louis, we've had a terrible mayor for as long as I can possibly remember, but I don't remember it being like the destruction of America is a mayor. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it's New York City, but some of it is just because it's New York City. Am I right on that? Or
I think you're right to a great degree, but it is New York City, and I think as the largest metropolitan area, and if you think about so many things that are based in New York City, for better or for worse, being the media, having that base there, I think is a piece of it. But again, it is just one city, and it is just a mayor, but it is a lot of people.
And a lot of money.
I want to get to this. You are planning a call this week to the governor of North Carolina, and your message is going to be send in the National Guard. I think anyone who lives in D.C. or has visited D.C. in the last 2 months has seen a massive improvement in security and cleaning up the homelessness, and just across the board what the National Guard has been able to do in 2.5 short months. It seems remarkable. I know there's some legal hoops to jump through when you call for the National Guard and what Trump has done, but I mean, the results sort of speak for themselves.
Well, they do, and that's ultimately, in fact, we sent that letter out this morning to Governor Stein in North Carolina, asking him to quit stalling and to step up and call out the National Guard. And it goes back to September 24th. We had Vice President J.D. Vance was in my district. He was there in Cabarrus County, and it was highlighting law enforcement. And of course, we had just come through the grotesque murder of the young woman from the Ukraine that was on light rail there. You remember Irina Zarutska, exactly. And so in the midst of that, the vice president pointed out, a question was actually asked, would you allow or bring the National Guard to Charlotte because of the crime statistics? And it wasn't just Irina. Irina highlighted the situation, but I mean, we're just seeing incredible numbers of murders that have continued to go up. We've seen crime, and there were a lot of pieces to it. I want to be clear about that. I've said that to people throughout the day-to-day. There's a number of pieces. This cashless bail thing is a real problem. We had to do something with our magistrates down there. Irina's murderer had been arrested 14 times. He had spent 5 years in prison, and they knew he had a mental issue, and yet just less than a month before he committed that murder, a magistrate just put him back out on the street for simply signing a statement that he promised to appear in court the next month. And then he goes out and he kills Irina. So, there's a lot of things that have to be happening. Some of that, our General Assembly in North Carolina passed Irina's law, and the governor did sign that. Much to his credit, he waited till the last hour of the last day that he could sign it, but he did sign it. But we're saying, listen, this is a short-term fix. This is something that the governor needs to call for. The National Guard needs to come in to back our police, because this actually, the Fraternal Order of Police in Charlotte has called for this. I'm really sent the letter asking it to support what our Fraternal Order of Police have asked the governor to do, because we're 276 police officers below where we should be in just pure numbers in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, because we've got Democrat-run city. Last night, listen, it became one worse. We now have 10 of the 11 seats on the Charlotte City Council are held by Democrats. We have a Democrat mayor. It's been soft on crime. Policies that have been put in place. When Roy Cooper was governor, they started, and Josh Stein was attorney general, who's now governor, but they had pushed this information, and Charlotte was buying into it, called reimagined policing and all kind of things that were just really DEI oriented and all the woke stuff. And it just has not worked. And so the Fraternal Order of Police have called for some help. And that was the reason for my letter to say to the governor, we need you to step up and we need you to bring that help to Charlotte, because it has made a difference in Washington, made a difference in Memphis. I mean, if you look at the number of arrests that have been made, the number of illegal guns that were seized, that's something that Democrats ought to be able to celebrate. But no, because Donald J. Trump is in the White House and this is an initiative in Washington that he felt was important, they're down on it everywhere in that respect.
There is some staggering statistics on, first of all, Judge Teresa Stokes, who gave this alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., cashless bail. There's not even evidence that she's a licensed attorney or passed the bar exam, which isn't even required in the state of North Carolina to be a magistrate. That's right. Judge. And the mother of this person even acknowledged that he should have never been allowed to roam the streets. She called him schizophrenic.
Right.
And what has Charlotte done about it? Well, they have brought in Estella Patterson as the new police chief. This is the former police chief in Raleigh. Violent crime climbed to a 30-year high under her watch. And while that was happening, her big initiative was to push a goal to make 30% of all police officers women. Mm-hmm. So that's her priorities.
That is. And she made that clear just this week. It was just announced this week that she is the new police chief. She takes her role December 1st.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Welcome to the Queen City.
Just when you think we're past all this nonsense, it rears its ugly head once again.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. Well, Mr. Harris, I hope you'll come back. There's so many more topics that we could cross off today.
I have to tell you, so when I look back in my ancestry, my ancestors immigrated. The first Burlesons immigrated from Wales to a western, like rural North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And like right before the Revolutionary War, thank goodness they fought on the right side of that. And so, but yeah, that's whenever I got elected, Virginia Fox asked me, she said, "Are you from North Carolina?" Because there's a lot of Burlesons in a particular county in her area. And that's where we originally, that's where my ancestors originally got there. So
that's amazing.
In fact, there's a cabin that still stands. It's a historic cabin that was a Burleson cabin.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
So
you have some Tar
so
Heel
we've
roots.
we've got a common background.
We do.
Mine's not that cool, but I spent some time in the Outer Banks this summer, and that is a getaway that if you can make it happen, you oughta.
Oh man, if you go down the Outer Banks, they are gorgeous down there for sure. You get on Jockey's Ridge and hang glide straight out there. There's some beautiful things that happen in the Outer Banks.
It's awesome. Mr. Harris, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Great discussion as always. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stand strong, stay informed, and keep fighting for freedom.